Hello everybody, this is Blake Cross EXE.
And RioG42.
And it's time to react to some MegaMan Hot Takes with our guest, Gavin Dragon.
Hi guys, I'm here. I exist.
So yeah, Gavin's been on the channel with us before, mostly centered around MegaMan content, and this is one that we've been kicking around for a little while now, and I thought it was time to throw our hats into the ring.
Glad to have you back.
Absolutely.
So glad to be here.
So, I put out the call on both our community tab here on YouTube and on Reddit, asking people for their MegaMan Hot Takes, and because it apparently is a recurring question on the MegaMan subreddit, I also got some from previous entries as well. So we're going to be giving our reactions to some MegaMan Hot Takes today.
We said we were skipping ship things,
Yes,
right?
we're not doing ship takes.
Naruto?
Well, starting with the ones that are from our audience on our community tab. The very first one, I guess, is more of a joke than an actual hot take. Never say circumcision in front of Cutman.
You'll be a victim of circumstance.
Especially if you look at, like, fully charged Cutman's design.
That sounds like a horrifying, like, actual combat stance for him, the circumstance. I hate that we did... Ooh, I shouldn't have said that. Anyways. I just gave myself nightmares. Moving on.
Alright, on to the first actual hot take on the list here. Mega Man 2 is far from the best classic Mega Man game, but definitely isn't the worst either.
Well, I don't think it's the worst. I would say it's definitely... If it isn't near... I don't think it's near the top, but it's definitely, like, middle to bottom in terms of, like, structure and how it's coded and stuff, because it's kind of a mess.
So I'm going to be honest, and this might actually be more of a hot take than my actual hot take. Comparatively, I think I like the classics the least.
I've seen hotter takes in this list that we got. I haven't finished all the classic games, but I do remember Mega Man 2 being one of the more fun ones, especially when you get that music in here. But like Gavin said, from a programming standpoint, when you take Mega Man 2 versus Rockman 2, you have normal mode and difficulty mode. The only real difference is that normal mode doubles all damage, so it can make the game like ridiculously easy. So I can kind of understand from like a design standpoint, it definitely does have a lot of cracks in the system.
I think normal mode is actually better designed because it's easier, believe it or not.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's fair enough. You do have the old school, like, Nintendo hard kind of stuff going on back for that still.
Yeah. Quickman, his lasers.
Yeah.
But I haven't played enough of them consistently enough to have a huge gauge on that, but they're just overall my least favorites. I'd play X first.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat on that one. It's actually my goal before year's end to like solo stream or record all the classic games to get them ready for a bigger video later. Just that way I can just cross off the list and say that I played them all.
I have already played through all the games. I'm doing it again on Twitch, and I find 2 to be less fun the more times I play it. I think the later entries on the NES are actually better than 2. I just think 5 and 6, 4, 5, and 6 are far better than 2. And if those are better than 2, then 7, 8, 10, 11 have also got to be better. And by proxy, that puts 2 somewhere middle bad category.
This is kind of a positive hot take here. I like the entire franchise. I think there were no bad games in the series, in my opinion.
I mean, I don't think I've played a Mega Man game that I just wholeheartedly disliked. Maybe
X6.
I was gonna say maybe X6, but even then, I like the names at least.
And it's got like my favorite armor that they've ever done. Like Shadow Armor is fantastic.
Yeah, they just kind of grinded my gears getting through the levels. Call it a skill issue.
Maybe Challenger from the future, but even then, that's a hard maybe, because I don't think there is a bad game. Like,
even at its worst, it's all right.
Yeah, like X6, yeah, everyone complains about it, but it ain't terrible. Like, it's really fun, especially if you get all the parts and stuff. And
we made it through
X7 isn't. X7 with some tweaks would be nice. I mean, it's not terrible.
I honestly feel like when it comes to people deciding if a Mega Man game or any game in any series is bad, really, if it's like a long-running series, it's less the game itself is necessarily objectively bad, and more so it didn't live up to their expectations based on previous entries. And like a lot of people nowadays are being more kind to Mighty Number 9, despite it actually just being received as kind of mediocre. But it's a thing of we were expecting the glory days of classic Mega Man, and that's not what we got. Again, I can't say because I haven't played it quite yet, that's for the future, but that's like the general consensus I'm hearing nowadays. So I can kind of like see that angle too. Of course, you could just enjoy each game for what it is and just take things in stride.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a bad hot take, kind of more positive one actually.
So we have ZX is a good game. Is that a hot take?
Depends on who you ask.
I love ZX.
Only real problem I
It's
had.
great.
Only real problem I had with it was that first time through, some things are really difficult, like trying to get the biometals undamaged, and
Yeah.
there is no good map system. But aside from that, I thought gameplay was good. I thought character design was great. Music was pretty good.
I mean, I guess I can kind of see where people are gonna take offense to it, I guess. Because that map system, now that you mention it, not having any kind of workable map is awful.
Yeah, it was just like, this is where you are. Only tells you the name of the area. Doesn't tell you how to get to the next area.
I feel like it's kind of like Zelda 1. After I start playing for a little bit, my brain kind of just fills in the gaps of where I'm at and how the map system runs. And I'm just like, yeah, no, I just got this down.
I'd agree with that.
And eventually you do just learn to recognize where you're at. So,
Alright, here's the next one. I guess is more a jab at the company than the games. The most of Capcom's work on the PvP mode for the Battle Network Legacy Collection has gone to waste because it's impossible to find a match.
God, ain't that the truth?
Ooh. Yeah, you're better off using Tango. Like, if you want an immediate or really quick to find match, you either need to talk with someone in a Discord or Facebook group to set up a private match right then and there, or you need to, try to set up a match on Tango, because it's a barren wasteland. The online, just go find a public match, Battle Network Legacy Collection. Nothing. Even back at launch.
It needed crossplay, and it just didn't have it.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. Everything should just have crossplay at this point.
And especially when the Battle Network Collection, I don't think that there's a real reason why it shouldn't or couldn't have crossplay, because it's the exact same game across every version.
Mm-hmm.
So it shouldn't be a compatibility issue. Next one we have is Mega Man Unlimited is a better conclusion than being decommissioned. I guess that means that they think it's a better ending to the series than it just stopping at Mega Man 11. Because Mega Man Unlimited did give us Prototype Zero as one of the bosses. So it does kind of bridge the gap between Classic and X.
Yeah.
But 11's not at the end. Wily even threatens to come back. So, and Unlimited gets Unlimited too, so it's not really an ending.
Yeah. Me personally, I always thought that Mega Man 10 was the lead-in to the X series because the Robo-Enza virus is heavily implied to have become the Maverick virus that showed up later. So, that's just my take on things.
This next one.
Alright. The next one we have, Fully Charged is good. I thought it was decent. Thought it was good enough.
I like it.
Alright, Brio. You,
I'm a little pickier with my anime than that. And I mean, I'll watch some garbage if it's got a good enough rhythm going with it. And I'll be honest, I couldn't. After a while, it just.
I'm not going to pretend that it's without flaws. I'll give my full breakdown in a separate video later, but I thought that it was at least good enough for what they were trying to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, it was an okay anime. It's just. It's not anywhere near the quality that I would want Mega Man to be at.
And I can get on board with that. My biggest complaint with it was honestly just the art style. Not even necessarily just the fact that it was CGI animation, which I always prefer 2D to CGI in the first place, but the art style itself didn't necessarily do them any favors.
At least
They
it wasn't
test screened it. They made the first episode in 2D, and then Cartoon Network told them they had to make it CG, so I don't know.
You know, they would have been better off if the entire series had been done in the 8-bit style that they had as the in-between scene transitions or the dream sequences. If it had all been in that 8-bit style, the series would have been better. might have come across more as like a Sonic for Hire or Mega Man dies at the end in that that kind of vein, but I thought that it would have been more appealing that way just because the art style was, like, character designs were great, but the animation was a little weird at times. So brown and shiny, smooth, you know.
At least the people who worked on it cared enough, so I can feel that they were told to go with more of do your own thing, don't entirely copy. Like, they were given the free liberties, like DMC Devil May Cry, and I applaud them for what they did.
Yeah.
So
they did the best with what they could right before the interference hit them.
Yep.
Like I said, I'll save more of my thoughts on that for a video coming out in the near-ish future, before year's end. That's one of my goals. This is an interesting one. Mega Man Legends was a lose-lose situation and was used in other games. The rest of the post is essentially the commenter saying that other plot elements would go on to be used in different Capcom IPs, such as how in Devil May Cry 4, you would start off as Nero instead of Dante, similar to how in the demo for Mega Man Legends 3, you played as someone who was not Mega Man, and other concepts were used in other games, and so on. I feel like their comment actually meant Legends 3 was a lose-lose situation, and not just Legends was a lose-lose.
Yeah.
Although you could argue that original Legends was kind of a lose-lose as well, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
I don't see pulling tropes as a lose situation. If they're done well, then it's a good story, and I liked Legends. I don't know. I don't see what they're saying. I don't see how copying even a little bit is equal. I don't see that as a bad thing.
I don't think that they were saying that the tropes being reused in other works was necessarily the lose-lose. I think the lose-lose was more so focused on...
If 3 came out, it would have probably been trapped on whatever hardware it would have come out on at that time.
Right. I feel like this is supposed to be two separate thoughts, but, you know, internet speak is as it is, and the sentence structure didn't exactly translate completely to what was meant to be said.
Well, at the very least, I don't think it would have been trapped because Resident Evil Revelations uses the Legends 3 engine, and that came to everything else, so I don't think it would have been trapped.
Fair point. I'm less thinking it's lose-lose because, like, yeah, it didn't happen, but now I'm like, it could now.
It could.
Like, there is demand for it.
There absolutely is demand. I would say, counterpoint to kind of side with the poster here, about it being trapped on consoles, yeah, the last official release we got for any of the Legends games was the PSN store on PS3.
And that's still just...
Still currently the only legal way to play it, outside of the original cartridge, original discs and the Mega Man 64 cartridge, like Legends 1, 2, and Trombone, stuck on the PS3. That's all we got legally currently.
You can vote for it on GOG, but that is a whole other story. I'm sure eventually they'll come back out with them.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're doing all the other Legacy collections. Let's get the spin-off Legacy collection in here, Capcom. Come on. Have faith in you, please.
Still salty that we didn't get Mega Mania Game Boy Legacy Collection. It was just dumped onto Switch Online. That's what I was afraid was going to happen with Battle Network. But if I had to pick or choose, I'm okay with the original Game Boy games getting that treatment. So, all right, here's a good next one. Mega Man and Bass for the Game Boy Advance and Star Force 2 are better than X7 and Battle Network 4. Some very specific picks here, but I really liked Mega Man and Bass, and I like Star Force 2, so yeah, I'd say they're at least better than X7.
I'm not finding any faults. I didn't particularly care for BN4.
I have more fun with X7 when than Mega Man and Bass, but I'll give you Star Force 2 being better than Battle Network 4, but I prefer X7 to Bass.
So, gameplay-wise, I'll take Battle Network 4. Story-wise, absolutely Star Force 2. As much as I will defend Battle Network 4 for its great gameplay and a lot of great ideas, the actual story was dog water.
Could have been implemented in a myriad of better ways.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll go over that more later.
We got a longer one here.
Big comment chain attached to it. Mega Man X6 was actually good. Better than X7. That seems to be the general consensus a lot nowadays. Again, I haven't played X7 all the way down in almost a decade, so I can't really speak to that.
I prefer playing X6 than X7, but I like both about equally. It's hard for me to judge them because one's in mostly 3D and the other one's all 2D. So
Yeah.
there's more content in X6, I'll give you that, but I don't know if that makes it good or better.
Give X6 this at least. It doesn't have Flame Hyanard screaming burn to the ground in your ear repeatedly for 5 minutes straight.
But X7 didn't have that originally either. I play the Japanese version mostly, so...
Okay, fair.
But I'll give you X6 is better if you use, like, the improvement patch.
No patches or upgrades here. We're talking vanilla game. Well, I said that, and yet...
I don't think we put that stipulation anywhere.
No, and we also did talk about fan game earlier, so I guess anything that's fan consensus is on the table here. Alright, so the next one we have after that, Battle Network 4 is far from a bad game, and we need Star Force, and we need the Star Force Collection before the Legends Collection, unless it is to pave the way for Legends 3. Battle Network 4, I'll talk about that here in a sec. Whether or not we need Star Force Collection before the Legends Collection, need is kind of subjective. What I think we're more likely to get, it might actually be the Star Force Collection because it's closer related to Battle Network.
Yeah.
But Legends would be easier to do. Just dump the ROMs on a Switch cartridge or a PS4 disc, upload them to Steam, done. Star Force is going to need some major overhauls with like the touchscreens before it becomes a collection.
Yeah. Plus, how are we going to do all those cards?
Right?
Don't be a coward, put them both together.
Yeah, please.
I'd be okay with
I'll
that.
pay for it.
And call it something like Get Mega Man Off the Moon Collection.
We could have Geo help him.
Dude, the ultimate crossover we deserve.
Mega
Man,
Man,
been up there a minute,
Mega Man to Space and Beyond Legacy.
There we go.
And it's just we throw the Game Boy games on there, we throw the Legends games on there, we throw Star Force in there because they all have to do with space.
Yeah. All right. As for Battle Network 4, again, I think that it had good gameplay, but the actual relevant story was a major disappointment. I can see why people would think it's their favorite, but I can also understand why people would say that it's bad.
So, totally unrelated, but call it the Frontier Legacy Collection.
I like that.
Legends, your explorers, cave divers, space, the final frontier.
Yes.
It writes itself.
And then just for good measure, we throw Digimon Frontier in there and finally get our Mega Man and Digimon crossover.
You're just trying to get reactions out of me at this point.
Yes, I am. All right, here's an interesting one that I feel like is going to strike a nerve. Mega Man Legends doesn't have any of the qualities that makes Mega Man series notable. Aesthetic, music, replayability, making the feature entries some of the worst in the franchise.
I will fight you. I will fight you so hard. Legends is got a gorgeous art style. The idea is it's essential, like all the designs and stuff are essentially, they've stripped everything to its bare essentials. The machines are down to the bare metal. We're looking at a steampunky, overly sketchbooked style. It looks way better. No, it's got the feeling, it's got the music. The music is top tier.
Now, Gavin,
I'm going to reserve mine until y'all are done.
Gavin, I will agree with you that it does have its own unique aesthetic and it does have great music. The replayability comes from you wanting to see the charm of those characters interacting with each other again and seeing how you can approach different situations with the variety of weapons that you have. I will give some credit to the poster here in that if you didn't know that it was supposed to be Mega Man, it could be hard to identify as a Mega Man. And I've heard the same case made for the Mega Man Zero series, because the art style has been completely reinvented, and the gameplay, while being, like, on the surface level, somewhat similar to X, fundamentally, it's very different from the X series. So they could distance themselves from the Mega Man IP and exist on their own as separate entities.
Kind of like that Resident Evil game you were saying, using the Legends 3 engine. Like,
yeah.
It could just be the same engine with a completely different skin.
So,
But
So I could understand the being one of the worst entries in the franchise as being recognizable as Mega Man, perhaps, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad game. Like, G Savior is a terrible Gundam movie, but it's not a bad episode of Star Trek.
So here's my reaction to that take, because I feel kind of weird, because I would argue I'm probably the one who loves Legends the most of the three of us.
You like it more than I do. I'll give you that.
I like Legends a whole lot, but for the sake of discussion, and maybe for helping change some outlook on some gaming, because I'll touch a little bit more on this later, it's because it doesn't fit some of those notes that normally makes Mega Man notable that makes it such a great Mega Man game, in my opinion. Because I wholeheartedly think that when you take a character and put them in a new situation, but you don't lose the spirit of that character, that's almost always a good thing as long as the game is done well. And I think Legends is. But instead of just having this robot that's here to protect, you have this kid who doesn't even realize that he's a robot construction to begin with, but you still have that Mega Man drive that's like, no, I've got to protect the carbons. So you still have the same spirit in a new facet of exploration. And you still have the, you can search levels for random power-ups, stuff like that. You don't lose the exploration, but it's done differently in the new 3D dungeons. So it's not that it doesn't have the facets and qualities that make Mega Man notable, it's that you're having to look at them from a new viewpoint. And that's what drives it home for me personally. Because if you look at the parallels, they're all there. You just have to analyze as you're going through it.
Yeah, you still got the variable weapon system. It's just that you're crafting the weapons. You're still getting those parts from defeating robots. You're still getting to pick which area you go to first. There's a linear story, but you still get to pick like what exactly you're doing. The marks are all there. There's boss fights. Some of them are larger than life. There's always going to be like a final castle area that is still technically there, with both the moon and the whole like carbon city rising up in the first one. It's
we
all
could go for
there.
A boss rush though. I could do for a boss rush. Sorry.
We got one in Legends too.
That is true.
I will say the biggest thing.
I feel like it was much of a boss rush though. Like I go back through and fight everything again kind of thing.
Of course, it's really not much of an effort when you got the shining laser.
Yeah.
One counterpoint, because I think both of you have merit in that discussion. The biggest counterpoint here, variable weapons. The fun of Mega Man is being able to change them on the fly, especially when you get to the SNES era. You can just toggle between them with like L and R buttons. But with Legends, you have to go talk to Roll, get your arm swapped out for a different one, which is something that the manhwa does completely differently, and I kind of wish that is how it was in game.
Yeah. Notes for 3. Come on, Capcom, please. I'm actually begging.
The last one from our YouTube commenter section.
X-Series Zero and Tron Bonne are some of the most overrated Capcom characters. Not bad, but wow. People talk about them like they're the best thing since sliced bread. Also, Zero 1 is a better first game than X1.
For that first sentiment, I can kind of agree.
Yeah.
I mean, Capcom loves milking it too. I mean, you got like Tatsunoko versus Capcom, where Zero is playable. You got Marvel versus Capcom 3 that gave us both Zero and Tron Bonne. You got Dead Rising that gave us a Zero costume in Dead Rising 4, and Tron Bonne as an outfit for Franken, the deluxe remaster. The list goes on and on, so Capcom loves to milk it just as much as the fans do.
People latched on to those characters and never let go, but it still didn't get us Legends 3. I'm not gonna drop it.
I don't know. I think any representation's at least better than nothing, and I think that even if they are a little shoehorned in, it's not always a bad thing.
I mean, my favorite Pokemon's Charizard. I'm not allowed to talk.
Zero 1 is a better game than X1. Or is a better first game than X1. That's a tall order right there.
Yeah.
I don't know how to approach this one. On the one hand, well, they're both direct sequels to each other. Like, Zero's the direct sequel to the X series. X1 definitely was more innovative than the Classic Series. It took what Classic Series did right, expanded upon it, and made it evolve with a new Mega Man. The Zero Series, on the other hand, took what the X Series did in terms of basic mobility and flipped it around to where you're now entirely focused on Zero without the variable weapon system, but instead you have like a small handful of weapons. So it's... I don't know if I can necessarily agree. It does also depend on... I think the angle we're coming at this from is that it's the best setup for the rest of their series going forward.
So, I feel like X1 is better gameplay-wise, but a better hook, better story, and I've gotten more people interested in Zero One just by, like, showing them that game. X1, on the other hand, it's a harder sell.
Yeah.
Especially if we're using vanilla X1 and not Maverick Hunter, where we're dropped in with no context. It's just run, jump, shoot, destroy things. Whereas with Zero One, they drop you in with a squad of soldiers getting chased by some faceless robots and just getting gunned down in the dozens. Very grim opening to set the tone for the rest of the series. And in terms of core gameplay, I feel like the Zero series maintained its consistency more from 0-1 to 4 than X1 to 4.
Yeah.
So, as far as it just being a better first game, I can kind of understand what angle they're coming at this from.
Personally, I kind of see both of those viewpoints. I think it's going to be more of just a personal taste, less than a hot taste. Like, do you prefer the better gameplay as the better first game thing, or do you prefer the better hook into the story and the narrative as the first game?
Right.
So I think that's just more of a personal take. Frankly, though, I think I'm on your side, Poster.
All right, and now it's time for the hot takes from Reddit. This is from the thread that I posted specifically. So, X6 is better than X5. Can't stand the tutorials in X5 so much. Just get past the first level and they're not really that bad, but no. X6 better than X5? No, no, the difficulty curve is way too skewed.
Curve?
More like a spike.
That thing goes pew!
Like, look me in the eyes and tell me that High Max is a fair fight. Tell me that Gate is a good boss battle design. Tell me that Zero is not absolute garbage in that game, outside of using Guard Shell. Yeah, say that X6 is better than X5 without using Ultimate Armor. Tell me that.
I have more fun with X6 than X5, but my husband would kill me because he loves X5.
Yeah, I do feel like in some ways I'm overly harsh on X6. My honest to goodness absolute biggest complaint is that they changed the intro to say 3 weeks later instead of 3 years later. Because X5 ends off 3 years later, X charging into battle. When we get to X6, 3 weeks later. And then the whole thing of Zero, repaired himself. I'm like, 3 years maybe? I actually have heard that that's a poor translation, and that's actually not what it was supposed to say originally.
I mean, I could look into that, honestly.
I mean, if you look at some of the X6's script, it actually was very choppy, and they use bad English in some parts of the game, so that would make sense.
I'm just wholeheartedly in disagreement there. I really liked X5, but X6 grates on me a little bit.
All right, we got a big cluster of hot takes in one post here. Okay, so I say we take these one at a time. Classic 7
wasn't that bad.
I don't think any of them were really that bad.
It was kind of difficult. I would say it wasn't bad necessarily. I do think it wasn't as good as X, but because X came out first. But it's also a thing of we're going back to Classic, so you can't give him all the same things that X had. That's how you keep the series separate. Now, I've actually heard someone else say this before. I feel like the majority of the Mega Man 7 hate actually comes from Brental Floss's Dr. Wily theme with lyrics, because in that song he bags on Mega Man 7 a whole lot. So I feel like a lot of people just kind of latched onto that. I've heard that sentiment before.
I haven't heard the name Brental Floss in so long.
Yeah.
The final boss is rough, but everything else is pretty well done. And
when I was doing recordings for a previous video, Wily Capsule 7 gave me a whole lot of trouble.
When I went through them with Casey, it was her first time playing 7. She now says 7's her favorite game, but we spent nearly 3 hours on the capsule.
All right. For the X series, X6 wasn't bad. Leagues above X7 for sure. We've already talked about that like 2 or 3 times. Zero series. 0-1 was good. Sure, people complain that it's worse than the next 3 games, but as the first in the series, Zero actually did a lot more than many of the first titles.
We kind of touched on that one too.
Yeah.
It did a pretty good job narrative-wise. It just needed some polish.
Yeah, and I still don't think 0-1 is bad at all. I actually prefer a lot of stuff about it to the sequels.
I wholeheartedly agree with this next bit.
My favorite thing about, like, one of my favorite things about 0-1 is the boss selection, how instead of looking at the character on a grid, you select it from a list, so you're going in totally blind, and you're not prepared for what you're going through. It's like, it adds a tiny bit of realism of, we don't have a lot of intel, we are resistance fighters just trying to stay alive. Let's just go on this mission and do what we can.
I do like that too. Yeah, I just read this next one. I'm in pretty heavy agreement with it. ZX Advent had too many transformations. We didn't need all that just for gimmick level design, like needling Bifrost for walls and head shock for tiny spaces. Just use the Mega Man. Just use the medals. We're good. We didn't need that much.
I haven't finished ZX Advent. I started it years ago, but my save file got corrupted and I lost my progress, and I just haven't picked it back up since. So I can't say anything on this one.
Once you start getting the other stuff, it's just like, why did you put that in here? Like, we didn't really need this.
After you get the, like, right before you get the one that lets you split into 2, that's where I think it's like, okay, I officially no longer need as many of these biometals because I stopped, like, using them. But on more recent run-throughs, I've given them more of a shot, and I've realized that, yeah, you can do some fun tech stuff with them, but you don't really need them.
Yeah.
Legends. Not gonna lie, I didn't enjoy Legends as much as the rest. It has its funny moments, but gameplay-wise, Legends just doesn't control all that great.
I'll give them that one. You have to kind of get the feel for the controls before you can really sink your teeth into Legends.
It's been a while since I played Mega Man 64. I have a copy of it. I've been meaning to replay it. I've heard that it controls a little bit better. So it makes a lot of sense, too, because the N64 actually had pretty tight controls in most of its games that I played, so...
My husband didn't really like the controls of Legends 1, and I gotta give it to him there, but Legends 2, I know for a fact, was a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Battle Network 4 is overhated. The actual worst Battle Network game is the first one, solely because of how bad the internet layout was.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I say that...
Disagree.
Yeah, this is where I feel like Operate Shooting Star comes into play, because it actually gave you a map system. And that is honestly the 2 biggest problems I had with Battle Network 1 in general. No running away, and it was really easy to get lost in the internet because of just how same everything looked. And it's not that the game is
same, it's identical.
Right? Because there's no difference in background or anything. So it's not that the game is bad, it's just that it's got a very first game syndrome, and it gets better as time goes on. That said, I do appreciate some of the aesthetics and some of how they worked in, like, you need this address to access this area of the internet, like this person's homepage. Especially in the earlier days of the internet, that worked better, but that's one thing I don't know if a lot of people would get nowadays.
Battle Network 4 is overhated. Gameplay-wise, it's a pretty good game, but as far as, like, structure-wise, I'll give it to you. I actually had the idea to write up a script of restructuring Battle Network 4 to make it more fun, but Battle Network 1 being the worst? No. I'll save that for a little later, but there are worse Battle Network games.
Right.
Fair enough.
And for Star Force, the coolness of the second game's transformation didn't save it from being a slog that is the Skywave. The fact that 3 reworked that in a much better way says a lot. Not gonna lie, I don't remember a lot about the Skywave from Star Force 2 just because I haven't played it a lot, but I do remember that the encounter rate was insanely high in Star Force 2, so I can kind of understand what they're going for. If I remember right, the Skywave's the
first
thing...
game's fun.
Yeah, first game's great. I will say, this is a counterpoint to the post. The internet was bad in Battle Network 1. Did you even play 2? The internet was hot garbage. I don't understand what you mean, because the internet in Battle Network 2 was given distinct looks. When you paused the game, you could see where you were, like it would tell you what area you were in. I think that the overall map design was better. You could identify where you were at, where you were going. Sometimes when you press L to talk to Mega Man or land, it wouldn't always give you clear direction, but as far as just the maps go, no, 2 is like leaps and bounds better than 1.
Yeah, it's better at recognizing each of the areas, but it's not like it's more clear on where you have to go. It takes you a couple run-throughs before you really understand the internet in Battle Network 2. Battle Network 1, I always need a map, yeah, but 2, yeah, I can tell where I'm at, no idea where to go.
Next up, Day of Sigma is canon, and I refuse to elaborate.
With the exception of Dr. Kane's death, I will agree. That's honestly the only hang-up I have, because he shows up in X2 and 3. I mean, we could say that because we don't see his dead body afterward, he survived, but it's heavily implied that he got caught in the blast of the missiles when they rained down on the city. He was in his home, and we see a bright flash of light. Typically in anime, that means he died.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I will say Day of Sigma counts as canon.
Yeah, he died. He just got better. It's fine.
Yeah.
Look how many times Zero's done it.
Dr. Kane's a human, though.
And
Look how many times Wiley's come back.
thank you.
What do you mean? Dr. Wily's still alive?
Somehow, Wily returned.
He made it. So Kane made it. Inafune isn't necessarily talentless, but I think he was given too much creative control over the series. He's the sort of creator who needs to be kept on a leash. Couldn't agree more. I still have a hard time telling fans, he doesn't work at Capcom anymore, he doesn't have any control over the series, stop asking him for games. He is not going to make them.
I feel like he has that same problem where it's like me or Blade, where if you don't keep us focused on something, we're going to throw so much extra crap in that we end up with subpar projects.
I haven't really done a lot of digging into the specifics of what Inafune did and didn't do as part of the Mega Man creative team. The biggest claim to fame I know he has is that he originally wanted Zero to be the new protag for the X series, or what would become the X series, and we got that later. But then we also know Mighty Number 9.
So he was the director for the series, but that doesn't mean that he directed all the games, although he was credited in every single game. And it got to the point where I feel like the actual directors of each of these games didn't feel like they had enough creative control over the series to actually take over the reins, which is why we're in the situation that we're in now. We went through a lull where none of the Capcom staff thought that they had the talent to do it because Inafune was just that overshadowing with his personality. All right, next one. Command Mission is a good game. Fight me.
I'll fight alongside you. Command Mission is fantastic.
It's a great game.
I still need to play it.
I
have it.
It's great.
I just need to play it.
That's your
I
weekend
got it on
assignment.
PS2 and
That's my
GameCube.
weekend assignment.
Good games.
Accepted. I need an RPG to hold me over for Wilds.
The popular fan theory that Zero killed the classic cast is too edgy for me. I agree. I'm glad that it's not canon. I think that it was just people were like, I like Jack 2 and 3, and I want to be dark and edgy and Grand Theft Auto, and look, but no, I don't like it. I don't care for that theory.
People wanting to say stuff so edgy it cuts the roof of their mouth. It's fine.
This is where I actually will kind of disagree. On the one hand, I will fully accept that the Cataclysm theory is not canon because, word of God, it is not canon. That said, I kind of feel like it should be, because it would make perfect sense for Wily's ultimate creation to get loose and kill off at least one or two of the main cast members, including Mega Man himself, thus necessitating the creation of X. But of course, that's just one of those instances where we don't have the complete timeline in between events, so we don't know what became of Mega Man. So that's just my kind of stance on the whole thing. And I know we got games where you have future Mega Man like Quint and Rockman Shadow and things like that, but those are also alternate timelines, so that's really jumbled up in there.
03 is the worst Zero game because Twilight Desert and Snowy Plains. They're dreadful. Oceanic Highway Ruins also sucks. I don't entirely think a couple stages make for a bad game, but those are bad stages, I'll give you that.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think that a couple of stages that give you a hard time makes the rest of the game necessarily bad because, I mean, Omega Zero.
But hear me out. That's not what they said. They said that it is the worst of the games. They didn't say it was a bad game.
It's the worst of the Zero games.
And
Because
3 really bad stages, Twilight Desert, can really make a game be the worst in the series.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Shrine of Amana and Dark Souls 2.
Alright, now, I have beaten 0-3 before, but refresh my memory. Do these come back to back or within a couple of stages of each other? Or are they kind of spaced out across?
I don't remember particularly. I just remember specifically Twilight Desert being a absolute pain. It's... ugh.
So, not necessarily a bad game, but worse of the Zero games. I'll have an updated opinion on that when I eventually replay the Zero series all the way down.
I could see that being a reasonable take, but maybe mildly warm.
I think it's reasonable, but for me personally, I think the good outshines the rest of that game. So
I guess, based on my experience from years ago, my counterpoint, I feel like 0-4 is the worst in the series because it was just kind of unnecessary. At least the direction they took the story in following 0-3. But, again, that's after like a decade of not having played it. This one might make Rio happy. My take is that I only need Legends. Nothing else matters.
I mean, it's definitely a hot take amongst the community. I don't know if I could say it's the only thing I need, but my brother, you got a friend in me.
I see nothing wrong here.
The level designs of X5 and X6 are hot garbage. Their mini-bosses are a pain in the butt, too. I mean, design-wise, I think they're alright. Some of the traps and stuff in X6 can definitely earn some punishment for the people who implemented them. But total agreement on most of the mini-bosses. Like, some of them, I'm just like, why are you here?
Nightmare Donut and Blaze Heatnik's stage.
Yeah, like, just why?
Yep.
Why are they there?
As much as I love X5, I will say there are some levels where, especially if you take a detouring route going to get a certain armor upgrade or a heart or something like that, things like Matt Rex's stage or Axel the Red's stage, yes, I'm using the original English names, Guns N' Roses references forever, fight me. Those can be really frustrating, and things like the Mecha Dragon wannabe from that stage, it's kind of frustrating. I thought the stages were pretty serviceable for the most part, with a couple of moments that were kind of annoying.
It's always specific points where you want to scream and throw the controller.
The one that I feel like most fans can agree was absolutely horrible, Squid Adler's stage, where you start on the ride chaser and you just, ready? Crash.
And then also on this same post, we have X7 is hands down the worst transition from 2D to 3D I have ever seen in any gaming franchise. And it goes on to say, at least Bubsy 3D is awful in a funny way. Good Lord, my friend, you didn't have to hurt him that bad.
So tell police, I'd like to report a murder, please.
Yeah.
My
crap.
poor beloved Bobcat. Why did you murder them?
But it just says X7 is just painful to play. However, it did flesh out the Hunter character swap mechanic introduced in X3, and I do appreciate that. Making our playable characters feel more like an actual team. So it did something right. I can kind of give them that bit.
Counterpoint, Extreme 2 did it before X7.
It did.
Yes.
Dang, it did.
I don't know about the worst transition to 2D to 3D.
I'm struggling to think of another one that struggled as much.
I don't think it's really even a hot take, but that Bubsy comment alone,
Ooh.
That's
a very strong opinion, if nothing else.
That is scathing.
Yeah.
That's telling
Like
someone's
Frogger.
mama they don't know how to make gravy. That's...
No, I think the worst transition I've seen from 2D to 3D is Frogger. Because that 3D open world thing is terrible on the GameCube. I gotta be honest, I think X7 is at least better than that. It still holds the structure at least, and that's gotta count for something.
So here's one where they refuse to elaborate. Mega Man 7 is better than X1. And someone asked why. But no rebuttal. They just didn't follow up.
At least protect your opinion, or defend your opinions, not protect.
Number bigger, so better.
I'm gonna say no. I think X is just a more fun game simply because of the freedom allowed with the Mega Man X series, like movement, with the dashing and the wall climbing, the armor upgrades, the charging of special weapons. Again, I'm not ready to completely dunk on X7 as being a bad game, but better than X1? That's a tall order there, my friend.
I think I'll give it to him. I think 7 is better than X1.
Oh.
There's just as many, if not more, secrets in 7. The shop is there, and that's a great addition. I love it every time it shows up. I think that the structure is there. I like the 4 bosses and then the next 4. I like the mid stage. I think the only part of Mega Man 7 that I find bad is the capsule. Meanwhile, X1, I think that it's just too short for me to really for it to ever even get a chance to get there. So I don't know. I think I'll give it to him. I think 7 is better than X1.
Some of these are kind of scathing, so
Yeah.
I'm going to rapid fire a couple of them, and we'll just kind of hit them as we go. Classic. All of them age like milk and are worse than X7. Not that they were ever good. X.
Ow!
Jesus. We might not want to put this one's name on here.
I was gonna go with names anyway.
That one's rough.
Yeah.
Holy heck! I have to disagree.
Completely. Yes.
That is a hot take.
Like I feel like that is a borderline rage take. X8 is the best, and the first 3 games are actually not as good as X4 and 5, and X6, because even though X6 was incomplete, still offers better gameplay and more content than X1 through 3.
I really like X1. I'm biased.
More content, yes. Better gameplay, no. Absolutely not.
I think X8 can count as one of the best ones in the series. I don't know about better than everything else, but it can be one of the best. It could be top even, but I don't know about the rest of that.
Zero Series. The whole series was great, and the chain rod should have stayed after 02.
We did not need to keep the chain rod.
I disagree. I like the chain rod way better than recoil rod.
It was really good. It kind of skewed balance.
During my run years ago, I never used the recoil rod unless I had to push a block.
Yeah, but if you have one tool that's always right for the job,
Is the recoil rod
probably a little overtuned.
fair?
If you only have a hammer, everything is a nail.
Yeah.
ZX7 is one of the best games in the franchise, though Gray is a crap protagonist because he has no personality.
I'm kind of on silent pro tags, but I play a lot of SMT, so
I felt like it was universally agreed that Ash was the real protagonist of ZX8.
I have not played
I
enough of
like
those.
both protagonists. One's trying to figure out their personality, and the other one is going after the booty.
So this one's a personal one for me because I have a pretty strong opinion on this. I love liberation missions, and I wish they returned in BN6. I strongly disagree, and it's not that I don't like liberation missions. I think that when it was done in X5, most of the time it was a jarring shift in the gameplay, and it would have been better served in a game where it was much more frequent.
Now, I'm going to say here, I actually love the liberation missions of Battle Network 5, and I love when they were implemented, because you always knew it was coming when you got to that point in the story. And I really like how it made you be tactical and strategize. I don't see how they really could have worked into Battle Network 6, given the story layout, except for the handful of evil spirit missions that you had to deal with. But even then, that wouldn't really work, because you didn't have a whole team at your back, it was just one Navi.
So, I have an addition to this one. I really enjoyed the liberation missions. I recently replayed through Battle Network 5. I don't think they should have come back for Battle Network 6, but I would have loved to see them in Star Force 2.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Star Force 3 extremely fun, but not getting to fight King is disappointing. I mean, you almost never get to go 1v1 with the main antagonist anyway. Legends. No hot takes, really. Series is good boy and everyone knows it.
Fair enough.
Mega Man 9 has a lot of unfair and cheap difficulty to the point it's frustrating. I'll agree, but I think Mega Man 9 also should have been called Mega Man 2 Part 2 because there's not enough new content in 9 for me to feel like it's actually a good sequel to the rest of the series.
Dang, that's a good take on that.
Especially since you look at it, when it came out during the era of Xbox 360 and PS3, they made the deliberate choice to make it an 8-bit game, and the cover art for it was done in an homage to the original NES, like, variant box arts to where Mega Man looked nothing like himself. I kind of agree with that, yeah.
They reused menu music from the pause screen of 2. They didn't even have the goal to, like, create new stuff for that. They reused stuff from the stage select from other games as well. Most of it felt like a recycle. Mega Man 10 is better than 9 wholeheartedly just because it has more original content in it.
I can definitely see where you're coming from there.
Yellow Devil 1 is too overhyped as a nightmare boss. He has one pattern and one pattern only. Overhyped, maybe upon repeat playings, but the sheer shock value of when you first encounter him with that sudden change in music and you just getting blindsided by things flying at you from the opposite side of the screen, and not to mention the hitboxes are kind of wonky. I definitely think that he is a really big challenge, and with his later iterations in like X5, especially Shadow Devil, I feel like that he does kind of earn his reputation. I do think that upon repeat playings, he can like not be seen as scary. Definitely not worth writing a creepypasta around, but
to be fair, if your game has a titanic roadblock every time you replay it, you're not going to get replays.
Fair.
And I feel like that was kind of a big part of these games.
Yeah.
I think he's a nightmare boss in powered up on normal and hard, but the other two modes, both the classic mode and the other mode, he's not, and easy, he's not too bad there. But nightmare boss, like that's the only time I can ever say he's a nightmare boss.
So this next one we have says that they are honestly just sick of the everyone is wily theories and claims. Surges is wily, Sigma is wily, everyone who even remotely has sinister thoughts is wily, and even Zero was literally wily at some point. Not only do these have zero evidence to support them, no pun intended, but they would just be the worst and the most boring story ever. Mega Man versus the 100 Wileys is just... I mean, to be fair, Surges was wily, or at least it was heavily implied that he was supposed to be in the Japanese version of the game, and it's supposed to be hinted at in X6 that ISOC might be connected to Wily in some way, because we know the Wily is still alive because he was working with Sigma in X5. I mean, like, if it's at least partially canon, then it's not a theory, really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've done joke breakdowns of the series, and all I have to say to the Wily is that everybody is Wily. Man, fail.
Everyone is saying or fail.
How do you have this many iterations of yourself, supposedly, and still lose?
Ouch.
Yeah, I do think that it does get taken too far, though.
So this one's from the worst hot takes from Reddit. People that dislike the classic series and say they're too hard. My fellow in light, just play the game. Yeah, no, they're not too hard. If I was able to beat them as like an 11-year-old with an actual NES, and I was able to beat it with input latency on the Anniversary Collection, they're not too hard. Just try a little harder.
Slow down and learn your patterns.
And
my God.
For context, Gavin is younger than us. That means he doesn't come from the NES era of gamers.
Yeah, I grew up with a Nintendo Wii, a PS2, and I had a PS1 growing up too, but not for very long. I'm gonna be honest, they're not hard. I really have fun with them. I have fun coaching people through these games too. I coached my roommate through most of the classic series already, and we're getting ready to do X later on this year, so I don't know. They're not hard.
Bottom line, get good.
Yeah.
So continuing with the worst hot takes, and this one's kind of a personal one for me, honestly, is the take that Geo should have just manned up. I don't remember where I saw it, but it certainly was a horrible take, and my God, is it? As someone who...
Do you want
a
story?
Yeah, it's like, first off, do you want a story? And as someone who has dealt with similar sorts of mental issue, that's not something you can just do.
Yeah. No.
So that's a scary bad take, honestly.
Absolute garbage take, because that is literally the entire crux of Gio's character development.
Yeah,
at least in the
throw
first
out
game.
the whole series at this point.
You know what? As someone who just finished rewatching the first series of the Star Force anime, and the fact that Gio wasn't in the same like complete emotional shutdown that he was in the games, I was kind of taken aback because I feel like that removes a lot of the emotional stakes and impact of his journey. So the anime did it to where they just made him not as depressed. He was just kind of, leave me alone, but not like complete social isolation like he is in the game. So no, that is a flaming garbage take right there. No. Ooh.
Just for the gag of it.
No, I insist. I want this poorly written slop content, please.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Media literacy, people.
The follow-up, if Gio manned up and pulled the Glock on some of his enemies, the games would have been a lot shorter.
That's fair. That is fair, however. Another one in the list of worst takes on Reddit. The villain of the first Zero game should have been the real X as originally intended by Inti. Look, I like Zero, but the obvious story favoritism he was given in X's own series was getting annoying, and making X the villain would have been just plain character assassination. This is a good case of corporate reining in the writers.
I actually could take either or. While on the one hand, yes, the entire point of X being sealed away in the capsule for decades was to undergo such training to where he would never harm a human, I actually do kind of like the angle of X takes his programming too literally and it turns into an iRobot situation to where the robots, in order to protect humanity, have to go to these extremes. And I actually would have been okay with that version of X. It would have been tragic. And as a kid, I wouldn't have appreciated it as much because, X is my favorite Mega Man. But as an adult, I could appreciate the darker undertone and themes. But that said, if we did that, that would necessitate a rewrite of the next several games because X is present in them. So we would need a way to work him in. So that would have completely derailed the entire series as we know it, and would need a complete redo. But I could take either reality, where it is X or it's a copy of X.
My personal opinion on that is I could see it turning into a good story too, but it would have had to be a very different story. As I mentioned before, I really can appreciate when you take and look at characters in a new perspective if you keep the spirit of it. And I have to agree, the total character assassination of X would have left a really bad taste in my mouth back then as it would today.
I think that what we get out of Copy X being there and seeing what happens when you put so much pressure on a robot with the same protocols as X, to see what could have happened early on in the X series if he would have activated way too soon, is really more interesting than it's X. It was X the whole time. He's the bad guy.
Yeah, I agree. It does a lot more that it's a copy that went really wrong.
I will say one way that I think they might have been able to make that work is if there had been one or two more X games without Zero before we got 01. Because the entire lead into the conflict is that it's been 100 years later. X has never stopped fighting that entire time. And theoretically, he's been without Zero for that 100 years. He's been without his best friend to help him during the fights. So he's been going solo the whole time. So if we had left off at the end of X5, what looked like a hopeful ending, and we actually are shown a progression through some other games or expanded media like manga or anime or something to get us to that point, it could have worked. But I do kind of agree that if we just had come off the heels of X6, have Mega Man 01 released 4 or 5 years later, then it would come across as very jarring. So I can kind of agree that in the timeline we exist in now, with how the media was released, it wouldn't have worked quite as well. Another one of the worst takes from that page, this one actually hits me a little bit personally. I remember being in a Twitch chat, someone playing Mega Man 11 when it was new, and some kid piped up saying something like, they need to stop making these. Pretty soon everyone who cares about Mega Man will be 30. I'm over here 32 years old and I'm still playing these games. By the time a lot of people who like the series were 40 plus, and a lot of people of all ages still did and still do care. And it's not your grandpa's generation anymore, kid. People still like video games and fun things of the past of their youth, and 30 isn't even slightly old. I'll disagree on the 30 not being slightly old though. Like everything hurts, but that I felt
Is
that
that
one a little
age
bit.
or work beating you down though?
Yes.
All right, but by proxy of that, all right, we should not make any more Mario games because everybody who likes that series must be in their 40s.
Pokemon.
Everybody who
Alpha
likes Pac-Man, they're in their 50s. No more Pac-Man.
Star Wars needs
you
to
know,
go away
let's-
completely.
They're in their 70s. Kill them all.
Transformers.
Yep.
Yeah, get rid of
Gundam.
them. Power Rangers. That one hurts, but like they're doing that one already. Let's see. Just get rid of all of it. All media. Shut it all down. Who needs it? Everybody's old. You're all too old. Get out. Get lost. Go back to the farm.
Stop printing like really old books that are timeless.
Yep.
Stop playing classic rock from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. That's how that take feels. It's really like it sounds like it came from a kid who doesn't understand that things can be timeless.
I was gonna say, I do appreciate that they mentioned it was from some kid. That means the kid has time to grow up and get better smarts. Media enjoyment has no age. Like, even recently, I'm going back and watching things that are from before I was even conceived, and I'm enjoying them heavily. So, yeah, no, like, that ain't how the world works, bud.
So apparently this one's going around quite a bit, but it sounds awful. Mega Man 12 needs to be a generic first-person shooter instead of an iconic side-scrolling action platformer it's always been. Honestly, I don't hate the idea of a Mega Man first-person shooter, but I don't think it needs to be 12. I think you can do it on your own. Believe it or not, there's already a first-person shooter Mega Man, but it's a VR game for arcades that was released around the time of Mega Man 11 using 11's assets. But I don't think that you need to make it generic. I think you can have more fun with it. I would love to see a first-person Mega Man, but I don't think it needs to be 12.
Yeah.
Make it its own thing, but I'll touch on that in a minute.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It doesn't need to be one of the numbered mainline entries, but if it was done the same way Metroid Prime was or something similar, then we could absolutely get a great Mega Man game out of that.
The Wily Stage song 1 and 2 for Mega Man 2 is overrated, and the Wily Stage 3 and 4 from 3 and Abandoned Memory from 10 are much better tracks. And I have to agree, because 2 is the only song, 2's Wily Stage is the only one anybody ever mentions when there is so much better music in the entire franchise.
All right,
especially in the castles.
All right, Gavin, I'll be outside your house in 5 minutes. Get ready to fight because I will defend that song to the day I die. The Smash Bros. Remix, Okusen, man. Yes.
Oh, I
All
don't
day,
think
every
it's
day.
bad. I do think it's overhyped, though. It is definitely there are better songs, and I think Abandoned Memory tops it.
I can't hear you because I'm jamming out to the Smash Bros. Version right now. The metal just drowns everything.
So look,
No,
I
I see.
have to go with my resident Charizard fan acceptance that it is in fact overrated, but it's still my favorite. So
Okay.
that's as far as I can go with it, but I can definitely say that, like, give some love to other things, please. There are so many great songs in that franchise. Just go for it. Capcom knows more about what will sell and what won't than the fans do.
My sibling in Christ, I didn't need you to slap me across the face with reality today.
Man, I can see where, like, they do supposedly have marketing teams, and I can see that for a lot of their other franchises, but, like, can I get a new team for Mega Man? Because outside of the Legacy collections,
11 was the most recent actual game we got, and everything aside from that has been cameos, crossovers, a re-release of a cameo crossover, like Marvel vs. Capcom.
there are things that they could do that would sell bundles, but they're just not doing it. And if that comment is correct, then why would they not be doing the things that would print them money?
Like Legends Collection would print money. Battle Network Collection printed money.
Yeah. I'm not so sure that the Legends would print money, but if they added a 3 on with it, it would. Or a Star Force collection on with it, it would. Like, if you tack anything to Legends, like just Legends 1 and 2 plus something, that would go great. Because everyone like me who would just jump at more Legends is going to go faster if Star Force is with it.
A re-release of Tron Bond would print money just because of how stupid expensive and inaccessible that game is. Again, locked on the PSN's PS3 server.
I keep showing people Battle and Chase, and they keep everybody I've shown that to have told me, "Oh, I'd buy that in a heartbeat. That would be awesome to see remade with online play." So I don't know. I don't think they know all the things it'll sell. I think they just know what's safe.
All right, so to close these out, we're going to give our own personal MegaMan Hot Takes here.
If y'all don't mind me starting us off, I don't know how hot of a take mine is, but I do feel very strongly about it. Capcom needs to stop pandering for the nostalgia for games. Like, yes, I very much appreciate that we got the Battle Network Legacy Collection. I'll always appreciate that, but I would love to see new Mega Man IPs. And no, I don't mean like an anime or something like that. I want a new game. I mean, maybe a continuation of one of the shorter franchises they have, Star Force, ZX, Legends. Like, I would kill for Legends 3. But more so than that, a new spin on Mega Man that they just go in with the intention of building a good game in the spirit of Mega Man. Not something that they're planning to make an anime for or something like that. Just a new Mega Man game for the sake of being a good new Mega Man game. Yeah, but that's mostly it. Just stop with the nostalgia, build on what you have to make something new, but make that the focus. And I just don't think that they can miss if they put the proper love and care into it.
As someone who is also a Transformers fan and is kind of tired of seeing nothing but G1 style reissues and reboxings of the same character, but in a new package or a new mold, or reusing the exact same character design in a new series for decades on end, I can kind of agree with that. I feel like Transformers and Mega Man both did their best when they were in their experimental era, when there wasn't an evergreen look, when they actually did have some of the core basics that made those characters and series what they were, but also expanded and weren't afraid to try new things.
Yeah, again, as the resident Charizard fan, Capcom with Mega Man nostalgia is the only thing that comes close to Game Freak and Gen 1. Like, it's just always coming back. We don't need more of it. We've got enough. Share the love.
I'll give it to you. That one's a good one.
This is going to be a little bit of a hot take in the Battle Network space. We did touch on how several people say Battle Network 4 is overhated. I absolutely agree. But I think that Battle Network 3 is overrated. I feel like coming off the heels of Battle Network 2, which in my opinion more or less perfected the combat loop from Battle Network 1, 3 complicated it too much by effectively making style change unrecognizable from the previous game. 2 of the 3 new style changes that were introduced were not able to be utilized to their fullest potential. Like Shadow style, it didn't matter which element you had because your charge shot was always invisible. Ground style only had 2 elements that were really advantageous because of its ground breaking and cracking abilities. The Nav Customizer didn't play as well with the style change as it does with the Double Soul in the next game. You were only allowed 1 style change as opposed to 2. The post-game was a slog to get through. And while I wish that elements of the post-game, like the whole Under King and rankings, would come back in the later games, a lot of it just felt like excess fluff and padding. I will grant it that it was originally intended to be the finale, so they wanted to go out with a bang, but for me personally, it felt like it was a drag. Battle Network 4, while the main story is absolutely terrible, in that it's all disjointed and almost nothing matters, it's just building up to Battle Network 5, Battle Network 4 did also give us one of the most fun combat loops, and it gave us what is, in my opinion, the best final boss of the Battle Network series, Duo. The Dark Chip aspect was cool, and it was new to the Battle Network series in the way they implemented it, even if it did seem to kind of come out of left field and just capitalize on the popularity of other games like Kingdom Hearts at the time, where it's all about fighting your inner darkness and all that. But I feel like it was a nice take because it was something different and something new. And the Double Souls are my favorite version of any transformation that Mega Man EXE has had, and I feel like they were handled better in combat than the cross system was in Battle Network 6. I feel like 4 has a lot good going for it that not enough people will acknowledge, and 3 gets put up on a pedestal and praised too much, and not enough people are willing to critique it. Because, I'm going to be real, Battle Network 3 has the worst scenario in the entire series. Bubble Man. Worse than Freeze Man.
Yeah.
I will die on that hill.
Yeah, it's really bad.
I still really enjoy Battle Network 3, but not enough people give it proper critiques and criticism, in my opinion. And I will accept any critique thrown at Battle Network 4, like story-wise. I just think that the gameplay needs to get the recognition it deserves.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see the points made there, and I can also agree that the post-game of 3 was such a slog. Like, granted, I had nothing but time in my early teens, but even then, like, ugh.
And unlike a lot of these games where I've said that I haven't played them in a long time, I have recently finished 3.
Getting all the chips in 3.
Only thing I'm lacking is the PvP Giga Chips, and then I will have 100% of the game. But it still took a long time.
It's awful.
Yeah. So, mine is a little bit interesting. I think some of the spin-offs have better premises than the main series games, and I'm going to say it. Mega Man X-Over didn't deserve all the hate, and it has a better concept than most of the rest of the franchise, as a timeline collapsing in on itself and a robot built by Dr. Cossack in order to be the first Reploid to fix the timeline is such a good idea that they should redo X-Over with new content, new style of gameplay, and a 3D hub world, just so they could tackle the idea of a collapsing timeline that X-Over has to fix. It'd be better than X-Dive because it's not simulation, it's actually fixing what's there.
So it actually could make the Mega Man multiverse actually canon rather than just, oh, it's in a video game kind of deal.
Yeah, and I think that it was already good enough in X-Over because they already did that as the concept. Like, it's there, it's built in. I feel like if they did that again, expanded it, made it better, changed the gameplay to be less of a run and shoot, jump, like just pressing jump and shoot like it was with the original, I feel like X-Over could be one of the greatest games in the entire franchise as like a, let's kickstart this franchise with something new that's going to juice it and people are going to love it. I think that would be something that people would get super excited about, but they won't do it because you guys made such a hissy fit over X-Over that it will never happen, and I am so sad about that, and I think that you guys deserve to give X-Over a second chance.
No, I can completely agree with that take, honestly, because it's been a minute since I've thought about X-Over, but yeah, that's...
I can agree with the angle that we should need to try the story, but I have no experience with X-Over at all, so I don't even know where to begin on an opinion of that. It was a game, right? It was an MMO that got shut down, or is it a...
It was a mobile endless runner with RPG elements, and the boss fights were all like turn-based combat things, but I think that you could make the gameplay more of a standard run and gun action thing, and you could like legit make every single stage a different style of gameplay as like a variety game, and it would kill.
Yeah, it really would.
This actually would partially tie into what Rio was saying, to where they could release a new game and a not completely nostalgia pander, but it would have a little bit because it is about multiverse kind of deal, but it's a brand new character, or at least it's a lesser known one that the audience isn't super familiar with.
A scrap Mega Man that's having to go through and collect pieces of himself from other timelines to actually be able to stand up against what's actually destroying everything.
That does sound pretty cool,
Yeah,
actually.
Dude.
I have been thinking about this for years and years and years, and I gotta say, the fact that Capcom hasn't thought of this shocks me.
Yeah.
Or if nothing else, they haven't made mention that they thought about it. Like, it's never been brought up in like any Q&As or anything of recent years.
Nope. So, that's my hot take. Give X-Over a second chance. It deserves it.
And that has been us reacting to MegaMan Hot Takes. There was a lot more here than we were initially anticipating. Might do a follow-up on this, might not. Just kind of depends on how things go, but saw some pretty good hot takes today that were actually hot takes, and a lot of them in recent years they've just been kind of splintered factions, I guess. Just
Yeah.
differing opinions that have come to light more recently.
Yeah, but there were some real thought-provoking ones in there. But that said,
Yeah, that's all we got for today. This has been Blake Cross EXE.
and Ryoji42.
I've been Gavin Dragon.
Thank you all so much for watching. We'll have a link to Gavin Dragon's channel in the description and here at the end of the video, so be sure to pop over, check him out, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
Peace.
Good night, everybody.